Well, thank you. It's nice being here. Well, it all began in Brooklyn, and I grew up in a Jewish family. And as a kid, living in an inner city ghetto in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, all I saw was fear all around me. And even though I started going to Hebrew school at age 5, I just thought it was ridiculous. So I thought spiritual concepts was, I'm not going to pay it any mind, but I need to play along because every time I raised a question, I get smacked on the head. Like, what do you mean Moses spoke to his burning bush and it talked to him? Why didn't it burn? It was like, okay, just accept, don't question. So I nearly died in a motorcycle wreck at age 20 when I was at Brooklyn College. But after the emergency room visit and they said I could leave and all the bleeding had stopped, I said, you know what? I don't want to live in Brooklyn anymore. And even though they said I'd never run track again because I had injured my knee, I didn't accept it. I wrote away for a track scholarship to the South. And for some reason, I wanted to get away from family. So I was offered a scholarship in Florida at University of Florida in Gainesville and one in Monroe, Louisiana. I had no relatives in Monroe, Louisiana. I had a lot in Florida. I chose Louisiana. Get there and I'm limping and the track coach sees me and goes, what's going on? I go, don't worry. Within 6 weeks, I'm healed like it never happened. Yeah, sometimes I don't even know where the motivation is coming from because in my family, I'm the black sheep. Well, a good example is, when I became a chiropractor and went back to Monroe, Louisiana, and I have a dream telling me to do healing. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm Jewish. I'm in a chiropractic clinic. It's finally paid the bills. It's finally making money. And I have a dream telling me to make the sign of the cross over someone. And I'm Jewish. And I go, you got to be kidding. Anyway, I'm curious. What's with this weird dream? So I check a person's spine. One leg is shorter about an inch. I see what's out of alignment. I step 5 feet away. I make the sign of the cross and say, in the name of the Christ. And their spine lines up and their legs even out. And I thought, I'm not going to tell anybody this. So during the 80s, I kept it a secret. But I got curious. I kept on experimenting with it. Is it just a spine? Can I do anything else? What are the limitations? And I started lecturing at some expos. I got an introduction at Findhorn in Scotland, and they opened up a lot of doors all over the world. When Eileen Caddy wrote to people that we met this young man, SAUL SHAYE, he's the real thing. And they invited me to the Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit in London. They invited me to Bristol, England. They invited me to Montreal. Anyway, but I'm keeping it secret. People writing me letters. Oh, my dog's walking again. My child who had 5 miscarriages, you worked on them, and now they gave birth to a healthy child. All of a sudden, my eyesight's improved. Or my stage 4 pancreatic cancer went into remission after you worked on me. After 13 years of saying, God, leave me alone, I finally said, God, you win. I had an offer to go to Atlanta to work in a clinic as a spiritual healer. So I thought, okay, I got to follow through with this. I don't know what it means. If it fails, I'll start all over again. I go to Atlanta, everything collapses. The job closes. My clinic, which they said they were going to sell the building, they don't sell it. But there I am in Atlanta, not licensed as a chiropractor in Georgia, and I've already burned my bridges behind me. You can't go back to Louisiana and ask the bank for another loan after you gave away your clinic. So 6 months in Atlanta, nothing's happening. The president of the Healer Association of America, Nancy Love, says, you've lectured at all our national conferences. Why don't I send you the mailing list of members in Florida? Write to them and see if any of them want you to come down and speak in their house. And I go, speak in their house? You got to be kidding. What's that going to generate? But I had no other options. Nothing was working in Atlanta. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I still didn't consider myself a professional speaker. And I still didn't really know what I was going to do with healing. I really was just dabbling in it. And I was shocked by these responses. Okay, so I go down to Florida and I speak at someone's house. Some of her neighbors want a private session. It starts taking shape. At the end of the year, I'm speaking at a bookstore. There were like 10 people. But one of them happened to be the retired minister of Unity of Dallas. And he says, I think the church would like to hear your story. So he invites me to come speak at Unity of Dallas in February 1994. In 1994, Unity of Dallas, third biggest in the country, like 1,200 people Sunday morning. I speak there. They write to Charlotte, North Carolina. They write to Naples, Florida. They said, hey, we just had this guy. He's phenomenal. You need to have him come.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in a relationship at the time, Sherry. And she goes, well, how long are you going to be gone? I go, it's just a week here and a week there. By the end of the year, I was booked all across the country.
Okay, so.
Well, it wasn't desperation. It was a strange thing because there was my best year as a chiropractor. And you're programmed, you get a career, you get the money, you don't give it away. It was some inner feeling. I was more afraid to turn my back on God than failing as a healer. Inner knowing, no matter what everybody says out there, it's this inner thing, I've got to do this. Well, of course, now I'm probably more metaphysical than you, but there's a metaphysical concept. You are the sum total of everything you've ever been. So when people go, okay, this healing started, when you were like 33 years old. Up until then, you didn't have a clue. Where's this coming from? My belief is if you start demonstrating something very unusual, but you didn't learn about it in your childhood, you came in with it. And certain things bring it to the surface. Yeah, when the time was right,
it happened.
It came to the surface.
Yes.
There's another concept is when a door opens, sometimes you've got to grasp that opportunity.
Yes.
It may not come back.
Right.
The first time I worked in person with the Green Bay Packers, I was on the East Coast. The coach approves me to be flown in. It's the blackout. So I go to Newark Airport to get on the plane that they booked me to go fly to Green Bay. Sit in the plane for 5 hours. They say, go back to the terminal. No one's taking off. We don't have the electricity on. I call Green Bay and say, I got delayed. They won't take off. He says, well, try it tomorrow. I knew if I didn't get there for this time, they may not invite me again. Next day, I'm out in the plane. We're on the tarmac. 4 hours. They go back to the terminal. And then they say, okay, it's approved. You can take off. We get to Minneapolis. The transfer plane has already left. I have to call them again. I'm in Minneapolis. I can't get there. He said, okay, come, Monday. Okay, I get there Monday and I start working with the players. But I knew I needed to get there because I knew it may not happen again. To fly me in, get me a suite, give me a rental car and feed me and give me $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
I go, okay, I'm here. I better show them some things. Well, the coach, my inside guy, Coach Barry Rubin, he would go to a player who's injured and the trainer, and he'd say, okay, the guy is still hurting. He can't perform. I want Dr. Saul to work on him. And the trainer said, well, let me observe. So I go into the room, say with like one of the players, a tight end, his knee is hurting. And the trainer says, but I have it taped. It says it's still hurting. So I tune in on him and I go, well, that's because the knee is lateral. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, let me show you muscle testing. Any joint out of line, pressure on it in the direction to correct it will make your legs even. Pressure on it in the direction it's out of line makes them uneven. Okay, so I have the guy lay on a table. I put pressure on his knee, medial to lateral, legs get uneven. I put pressure on the knee, lateral to medial, legs get even. I said, okay, it's out of alignment, it's lateral. I'm going to do the healing, then I'm going to post-check. So I do the healing, then I put medial to lateral on the knee, stays even, lateral to medial stays even. Then I say to the trainer, Brian, now tape him. He tapes him, then I tell the tight end, okay, go out to the field, practice some running and come back in. Comes back, says, yeah, the pain's gone. I had to work with the team and
Yes.
show them that I'm doing something that they don't know how to do. If the coach said, I have this spiritual healer who gets great results,
Yeah.
they might go, look, okay, maybe you need to go sit down for a while.
Right.
But he says, I know a doctor.
Yeah.
He's a
Right. So
chiropractor. He's worked with me many times. He's
yeah.
really helped me and my family.
Yeah.
I had him work with 4 of the coaches. All 4 of them said they
Right.
felt better. Then the head coach approved me. My clinic was my laboratory.
Yes.
I was able to dabble in the healing and verify that I wasn't losing my mind.
Right. Right. Right.
So because I knew how chiropractic worked, I'd be, doing healing in another room, come back in the room and recheck them, and it's changed. And I go, and I'd make notes. I wouldn't tell anybody except the coach. He was originally my patient. And as a side note, how did this coach get me the opening with the Packers? He was a small town college strength coach. I don't know what they pay him, probably under $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
When I closed the clinic and told him what I was leaving and what I really did, he said, what else can you work on? And I go, well, it's not me, it's God, so it's everything. He asked for career healing. He thought he could be more than just a small town college assistant coach. A number of months later, he got the job at the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, I mean, before I became a chiropractor, the book, There Is a River, the biography of Edgar Cayce, opened me up to metaphysics and the spiritual life. And it's because of Edgar Cayce I started studying my dreams. So the healing started with a dream. So if it wasn't for Edgar Cayce,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have never started studying my dreams and getting a little cassette recorder.
Right.
And I have over 390-minute tapes. But like I said, having a dream saying I need to do healing. Well, up until Edgar Cayce, I never studied my dreams. I'd have a dream. I'd say, oh, it's a weird dream. I never understood why I had unsatisfactory in behavior in public school until in my 20s, my dad explained what that meant.
Yes.
I was so bored, I would have a fit when they wanted me to read Dick, Jane, and Sally because I was already at the library reading novels.
Right.
Well, it's a little strange tidbit. I've started writing down my diet in 1975.
Yeah.
I started writing down my workouts in 1957. I fill up a steno book, file it, fill it up. And I have my dream library, same thing. So people have constantly said, why do you do that? And I go, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to.
Yes.
Many years ago, the ARE, the Edgar Cayce Foundation, I spoke for them a number of times. They kept on saying I should get a life reading by this guy named Abrahamson.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't really care whether or not I did something in a past life. It's over and done. They kept on bringing it up. And I go, fine, I'll contact the guy. So I contact him. I give him my birthday. He sends me a tape with his reading for me. Everything in it was very general, except for one thing.
Yeah.
The last thing that I heard him say was, I was the first historian in Atlantis. And I go, that's where the note-taking comes from. The historian's writing everything down.
Yeah.
I go, now whether or not that's real, but I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. To go to the website, it's got my phone number, it's got my email. People have asked me, how can you have so many miraculous healings and not be overwhelmed? And my thought is, I think Spirit's protecting me. I sort of like being anonymous here in Santa Fe. Because, when I do some of these healings and people go, oh my God, I'm walking again, or all my loose teeth they're not loose anymore. Or I work on animals. Last year was 97 different animals. And they say, you helped my dog. Can I tell my neighbor with her cat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I worked on 4 chickens and 4 deer and a rabbit. 90% of what I do these days is long distance. When the YouTube interviews I did with the New Mexico Naturopathic Show got 600,000 views, I get emails from Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Tibet, and they'll send me an email. Can I get a healing? Are you still alive? And I'll answer them. Let's figure out the time difference. And if it's on Zoom, fine. If it's by phone, tell me the number you will call me from. Let's find a time that works. Well, a lot of times when I'm lecturing, people think I'm a comedian because a lot of it comes out funny. One thing I say in my wellness lectures, I'm not surprised you're sick. I'm surprised you're alive because they're doing so many things wrong.
Right.
But people go, if you weren't a good healer, you could be a stand-up comic. And I go, not really, but it comes out funny just trying to be honest.
Right.